Good day. Welcome to another edition of my X review. As we all know, the platform X is now the largest provider of news in the world. It is the number one provider of news in 150 countries in the world. And platforms like X, TikTok, Facebook all give us alternative news that is not seen in the mainstream media. For that, we get a more robust idea of what's going on in the world because we all know the mainstream media is highly censored and it always has an agenda behind it. But platforms like X is where every other person has a voice. It's a market square of information, and it is where you hear that information and that news and that point of view you don't get to see in other news organizations. So I have started the X review. This will be my fifth edition of the X review, and let's get into it. Before then, though, welcome to my channel, Ebima Mungo's Perspective on Global Affairs. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. If you have any comments regarding the opinions I express, please put them in the comment section. Do well to like and share. X, as you all know, is the source of news for everybody, almost everybody in the world. The world's media use it, the world's politicians use it, and it is definitely the number one source of robust news. How will I say robust news? Robust news is the news you don't get every other place. So today I want to start as a geopolitical analyst, I have my own feed. The algorithm finds me news that usually interests me. We know this is what happens with all the platforms out there. They tend to know your preferences, and as a geopolitical observer and commentator, my preferences come up in this manner. So let's dig in instantly. The first news I have today is from Annie. Annie is one of the biggest platforms we have. I think Asian News International. They have over 9 million followers. And this report here is about iPhone iPhone 17 launch in India. India is now a big market for the iPhone. India is also pushing towards manufacturing the iPhone. The iPhone is where India is one of the markets where they are trying to reshore. We should know that India is growing very much by the consumer class. The middle class is growing a lot. They buy quite a lot of Teslas these days. They just launched Tesla. American brands are sought after. American Indians are doing very well. I think among the immigrant community, they are the most successful by miles. They are in the tech industry and they are also in the hotel space in America. Yeah, they control a lot of the medium and low tier hotels in America. So they are very visible in America here. So this launch in India of iPhone 17 was a very frenzied one. It reminds one of all that used to happen when iPhone launches all across the world, where there will be large crowds, and it reflects also the economic status of India as a growing power consumer market. We should know that iPhone is not for everybody. It's very expensive. It's over $1,000 for one phone, and it's very expensive. And in a country like India that is very poor, to a large extent, it's a stable status symbol. I did meet some Indians who told me that it's a major status symbol for them to have this iPhone. In this particular launch here, now there was a lot of scuffles. Some of the feed I got was about how they were fighting and scuffling in that particular opening event. It was a very brutal scuffle because a lot of people wanted to grab their hands on iPhone. iPhone, though, is under pressure. Chinese brands like Huawei are beginning to eat into their markets in China, and it may just be part of their strategy to move towards India, build a brand in India, because we know that the iPhone has been quite snobbish about some markets. They are not interested in the Latin American and African market. They are very much interested in the Chinese market, where they sell the second largest amount of iPhones outside America, and they also have a big presence in Europe. But this incursion into India, they are trying to reshore and manufacture in India. They are now also trying to get a big market also in India. The next story here we have is about from Brian McDonald, Irish long-time Russia-based journalist interested in facts and objectivity, not interested in ideology and wishful thinking. Interesting one. So he says he gave us this post about Moscow's Yaroslavsky Stadium, the departure point of the Trans-Siberian, an epic railway that stretches more than 9,000 kilometers across 7 time zones, carrying you from Europe's largest city to the edge of the Pacific Ocean in Vladivostok. Russia is a very big country. Many people may not know. 11 time zones. It is huge. It is the largest country in the world, and for that reason, it's very resilient. It has used that as size for geopolitics a lot because it always has had problems with the western part where Europe has European countries like France and Germany and even Poland have repeatedly attacked Russia. And the thing they do is they always move to their eastern part, rebuild there, and come back. Russia is really big. And recently it emerged that Russia is going to start building high-speed trains, and they want to build high-speed trains across the same vast country. The first tranche of that, the first lot of that project will be one that will be 4,500 kilometers long. That will be the longest in Europe by miles. And the railway infrastructure and railway investment in Russia is one that is keeping this very vast country going. We may not know it. We also know that they have a vast freight train infrastructure that they use in moving goods because Russia is very rich in mineral, coal, and rare earth, and all the minerals are sought after by the world now. This other one is daily breaking news, stock market, geopolitics, crypto technology investing. 42,000 followers, RMK. Okay. He says that just in US intelligence says North Korea's missiles, troops, drones, nuclear stockpile, and spy satellite programming help Venezuela against US interests in South America. Well, we know that Venezuela over the past decade has been making itself more resilient. They buy Chinese and Russian armament to military hardware because they've had this problem with America for a long time, starting from the period of Hugo Chavez. And now we have Maduro. Maduro has always had credibility problems with the American government. Since he took over from Chavez, he has never been completely accepted by the Americans. They've even made a big attempt under the first Trump administration to remove him using the speaker then. And over this past few years, he has made serious investments in the military using the alternative sources, which is Russia and China. And this report now, if true, that North Korea is also helping. The North Koreans are making themselves very useful to quite a lot of countries. This year is what we have. This is hundreds of anti-Zionist Orthodox Jews marched in New York, September 17, to protest Israel Benjamin Netanyahu's visit to 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly. It's quite interesting. This New York is an epicenter of Jewish community. They have a large Jewish This is a very big community. When I lived in New York, there's probably a part of New York called Williamson. In Williamson, they have a large, very, very large Jewish community there. And it may shock a lot of people that it's not every single Jew that is a Zionist. Zionism is a concept of relocating Jews to Israel, to Palestine, and to that part of the world that is Palestine. Not all Jews subscribe to this, and not all Jews subscribe to what is happening in Israel at this point in time. It may be hard for a lot of people to believe because they see everything and they make every Jew seem complicit. But a lot of Jews do oppose Netanyahu. They feel because Judaism is a religion, all his actions is bringing a lot of opprobrium to the particular religion, and they don't find his actions acceptable. They feel that he is bringing harm, and we see what happens to quite a lot of Jews across the world these days. Anti-Semitism has grown in many, many cities and countries. When any person is identified as a Jew, synagogues are being bombed in many places also, and it is affecting them. Those ones, we have a lot of them speaking out. One of the most notable Jewish opponent of Netanyahu in the alternative media is Professor Jeffrey Sachs, the developmental economist. He does stand out resolutely against the actions of Netanyahu. You probably will not see this kind of video that states that the Jews don't particularly like Israel. Well, what Israel is doing now, and you won't see this in CNN. You probably won't see it in most of the alternative media, and that is why X is where you get all this kind of information. It should also be pointed out that supporting America just vetoed an agreement signed by all over the world, agreed by everybody in every country in the world for a ceasefire in Israel. But America vetoed it, and there was a lot of backlash for that vetoing by America. The Chinese are very unhappy about it. Over 120 country representatives were haranguing and harassing the permanent representatives of America to the United Nations. She was harassed all over New York because of it, and it has a lot to do with not only the Jewish presence in that particular city, New York, but also the large Muslim population in New York. We should also know that Columbia University, they have quite a lot of Jewish affiliated universities in New York also, Haaretz, quite a number of them. But Columbia University is also one of them. The next story is India continues purchasing Russian oil despite trade talks between Trump and Modi. Yes, India has said that it is very important to their national security. It's a non-starter. They don't even talk about it, and they've ramped up. Supplies are expected to continue in November and December, although volumes may be lower than the peak levels seen in recent years. Demand for Russian oil in India is recovering after the monsoon season. After the warming of relations between Trump and Modi, India plans to increase supplies. Authorities have not ordered major state-owned and private refineries to stop supplies or take any other action. India got the air of, for unknown reasons, they got the air of Donald Trump. He imposed 50% tariffs, 25 in the first instance, and another 25 over them for buying Russian oil. Whatever may have ticked off in President Trump in making that decision, it had a big backlash. The Indians feel that forcing them and making them not buy Russian oil is against their national security. We should know that there was one time that the whole West priced out every other country in the world. They alone had access to Russian energy. And when they said they weren't getting it, Germany had the Nord Stream 1 and built the Nord Stream 2 that was supposed to get gas from Yamal fields all the way to the German and the European economy. They thrived off it. They used it to become industrial giants because Russian gas was cheap. It was a win-win situation. But when this Ukraine war started and they said they were going to win themselves off it, all the countries who could not buy this get access to this oil because Russia for over a generation, 30 years, was looking west and hoping to build good relationship with the West. When they chose to start looking east, this oil became available at a discount to both China and to India. And the Indians have said, we thank you very much for not wanting it. We'll want it very much and we'll take it. The next story is European diplomats believe that Trump deliberately set EU unrealistic demands on sanctions against Russia, knowing full well they cannot meet. The demand that the EU stop buying Russian oil and gas entirely, impose tariffs on India and China. These conditions that countries like Hungary and Slovakia, whose leaders are personal friends of Trump, will never agree to. Why such impossible preconditions? Well, it so happens, like I've said several times, President Trump, the Roman Serementa, yeah, professor of economics, board member, he's American and Jew, and he supports Ukraine. So he believes this. This is not a complex thing to understand. President Trump does not support the Ukrainians. And unfortunately for him, the big support for Ukraine in Europe is very strong, and the anti-Russian feeling is also stronger. So he has always been scratching his head as how to get out of this Ukrainian quagmire. But this is latest order to NATO. He wrote a post where he says NATO members should stop buying Russian oil and tariffs Indian and China it's an impossible bridge for them to cross because it's a mountain they cannot surmount. They just are not going to be able to sanction China. They cannot stop India from buying Russian oil. We just spoke about that in the last post. And he believes that this is a trick by President Donald Trump. I do believe too, that this is one of the many tricks he has used to get out of the Ukraine problem, because this Ukraine problem is one that is dogged, dogging him everywhere. The public opinion is heavily on the side of Ukraine in the American political class, among the American media, among the European political class also, and it just is very hard for him. So now he sets them an impossible demand. Of course, we know that this is the demand, that this is what Lindsey Graham, Richard Bromfield have been saying, that they will impose bone-crushing sanctions, on secondary sanctions on India and China. President Trump sees that, well, if we are going to do it, we'll do it. We are ready to do it. But Europe, you do it too. Europe has been caught in a bad condition where their energy cost has gone up. They don't know what they're going to do, and they have been buying Russian oil by the back means through importation from India. It is not one that they are going to be able to come out of. The next story we have here is interesting new figures from EU Chamber in China survey. Ministry of Commerce approved just 17 out of 141 European applications for rare earth licenses, 13%. 121 still pending. Same number deemed urgent. 7 instances of production stoppages in August, 42 expected. This is a serious problem. We never knew China had such leverage until President Trump went ahead and decided that he was going to tariff China 120. First, I think it was 85%, then it became 125, then it became 145. When he imposed those tariffs on the Chinese, the Chinese pulled out a trick nobody foresaw coming, and that trick was a simple one. They said they were stopping the export of rare earth metal. It turns out rare earth metals and rare earth magnets are very important in the production of manufacture of quite a lot of things. The whole automotive industry depends on it. Even the mobile phone industry and then AI industry there, but most importantly, the one that interests America the most, the defense industry. They need it for the production of their F-35 planes, for their Boeing planes, and when China decided to put these export controls, and as long as talks are still going on between China and America, China has continued to squeeze, make sure that not every country has access to this. It is a power show by China nobody foresaw coming. China controls the supply chain of almost every single product in the world. One of the things that happened to America is that they rather than solve the problems that came with mining, they decided to ship out mining and strip America of every single mining they used to have. Rare earth metal used to be predominantly produced in America, and they moved it out, and the Chinese took it. It's dirty, it was costly, it pollutes rivers, and it pollutes the environment. But today now it has given them unparalleled power because it is them alone who control over 90% of the supply chains of this product. The Japanese felt the wrath of the Chinese a decade ago, and they promptly started trying to increase their supply of rare earth metals. So they are also in that mix. Iran, the next story we have here is Iran has carried out a rare missile test around Tehran. The IRGC's footage, local authorities confirm glowing objects in the trail. Yes, Iran did carry out a new missile. Nobody knows what this missile is. The missile showed new, some people feel it's a solid state a propellant missile, and the missile was new. Military observers will be looking at it very well. The whole world was shocked. Iran shocked the world in the 12-day war with an unrelenting barrage of missiles against Israel. Those missiles, hypersonic, fatal, they have all manners of names that signal bad intent. And those missiles rained down heavily, destroyed several strategic sites in Israel, and they were guided by Chinese Beidou system. they were pinpointing their accuracy, they were devastating, and they could not be stopped, despite all the attempts by the Americans to help interdict against those planes, those missiles, all across the Gulf, using all their THAAD missiles, their Patriot missiles. They couldn't stop the Iranian missiles, and the Iranian missile system now is one that is another front for battlefront for the Americans in their negotiations with Iran. They want them to stop their medium, intermediate, and long short range missiles, all missile systems that the Iranians have. But the Iranians have come to find out that this is their bargaining chip. This is their own. The Chinese have the rare earth metals. The Israelis have the long-range ballistic missiles. If you tip these long-range ballistic missiles with nuclear warhead, that is it. It is over. They probably will never have any threat again from Israel, because Pakistan is already saying that they will give that to them. So that's an interesting one. We already are expecting that there will be hot war again between Israel and Iran, and Iran is preparing itself for whenever Israel does make that move. The next story we have here is by Olga, specializing in humoristic geopolitical analytics, exposing hypocrisy. Interesting. It says, just in, if I refuse the meeting in Moscow, it does not mean I am not ready to meet in another Russian city. Vladimir Zelensky urgently suggested to considering St. Petersburg as venue for negotiations. 1.5 tons of cocaine worth 20 billion rubles found in a banana ship in St. Petersburg. This is breaking news. Now I get a link. There's been a lot of allegations that President Zelensky does love this product, and some people conjected they have a lot of bad epithets. They say bad things about him, especially when sometimes he comes out for some meetings and it's not looking too good. So, but we know recently that President Putin offered that if Zelensky is so keen on meeting him one-on-one, that meeting should take place in Moscow. Zelensky flatly refused it. This Olga Bozovaya is putting a funny spin on it, because the good stuff that Zelensky is said to like was found in large numbers in St. Petersburg. A ship came in and they had banana. We should know that South America has quite a lot of product they sell. They sell cocaine, they sell banana, they sell coffee, large amounts. And because of that, the banana supply chain is universal. If you stay in the Middle East, if you stay in America, if you stay in Europe, you would know that banana it's one of the biggest products, most consumed. And banana ships now is an opportunity for those people who move these drugs from South America. So that was Chebo here is another commentator, Moscow-based Irish journalist, history strategy, facts should define narrative, and narrative should define facts. Dear me for some, okay. So he gives quite a lot of information about what's going on in Russia, because it's Russian based. Zelensky and his delusional warmongering friends in EU have somehow convinced themselves that the Ukraine is winning the war. The Russians didn't get the memo and are advancing on all fronts. Indeed, the Russians are advancing on all fronts. And recently they had this Zapad 25 operations. It's interesting. One of the things, we know that India participated in that Zapad 25, but it also emerged that there were observers from Africa, and particularly Nigeria, my country. They sent a high-powered delegation to the Zapad event there, and that Zapad, the Nigerians were highly impressed. They were very impressed, because who wouldn't be impressed by the kind of weaponry that the Russians are showing, and the kind of display. This again here is the iPhone 17 launch we saw earlier in the beginning of the movie, and this is where they had the scuffle iPhone 17 scuffle in India. It's very obvious. It says video iPhone 17 series launch. A scuffle broke out among few people amidst the rush outside the Apple store in Jio Center, Mumbai, prompting security personnel to intervene. Large crowds had gathered as people waited eagerly for iPhone 17. Now we have here an American born in Ukraine, American. He's obviously a Ukrainian influencer. Europe needs urgent mobilize the entire continent for war with Russia. Those who think today's Europe can succeed in repelling Russian invasion are delusional. Without United States military involvement, the Europeans will run out of munitions in weeks. Um, let's hear him.
And it's turned out to be quite wrong. We also need to recognize that the United States is no longer assisting Ukraine. And I encounter people at this conference who don't appear to have grasped that reality. Deliveries, financial aid have ceased. Anything that comes from the United States from this point on will have to be paid for. That means that this war is now Europe's war.
Well, it is indeed. That's what Donald Trump has said. Donald Trump has said that he's not going to be financing this war anymore. America has done a good one. They've given, he believes that they have given $150 billion worth of material and military support to Ukraine, and it is not his war, it is Biden's war. I have said several times that Donald Trump is not a fan of the Ukrainians. He's not going to support them, and he has pushed it to the Russians. The Europeans are the ones who do have strong antipathy against the Russians. They are the ones who should be doing the fighting. They got time and chance event. Biden also hated Putin, and they all had a common agenda in fighting against Putin. But that agenda blew in the face of all of them. Europe is the economy is being destroyed because cheap Russian gas that used to drive it, as we have seen, is no more for them. And the Russians have put up a display that has shocked everybody. They have not only been very resilient in pushing back the NATO, they have taken territory in Ukraine, and this continuous try to bring America into the war is just what is going on here now. So that post by Igor is highlighting the fact that America should be in it. America is not going to be in it as long as Donald Trump is president. Then here now, towards single country, China is producing more walking robots than all other nations in the world put together. Study. On an absolute basis, China has been installing more than half of the world's robots since 2021, 250,000 each. But rich countries, namely Germany, Japan, and US, are still likely to be ahead in the development of robot technology and software. Yes, that is a fact. They started it. The America and Japan, particularly FUNOC. I used to work in a manufacturing company. I was very impressed seeing all those automated machines work, especially since they were mainly computer and numerically controlled. I loved watching them. It was very fascinating seeing automation in it. But automation is much more than humanoid robots. We see it in Amazon warehouses where robots just move around and pick pallets and move them all over the place. Automation is in very many things we see. But China has become a very major country for robots now. We should know one thing. The Chinese bought some German robotic companies, and like everything they do when they buy, they get your IP, and then they learn your methods, and then they scale up. And that's what they are now. They are by far the biggest of both humanoid and every single form of automotive robots out there in the market. These are my last few questions, but Tesla's price tag 71. Yes, Tesla is doing very well. Tesla installed Grok. The robo taxi is an opportunity that they feel will be $1 trillion opportunity, and Tesla's shares has risen up very extensively recently, especially as it emerged that Elon Musk bought 1 billion shares of Tesla. Tesla shares just shot up. I would like to conclude with this interaction here between an Israeli military leader and a Chinese academic. Your military people should shoot the terrorists, not the children, not the women. A video of China News Service showed Chinese expert Yan Xintong arguing face-to-face with an Israeli military officer at the 12th Beijing Shangshan Forum. Your military, yes. Let's listen in.
The terrorists,
The terrorists.
not the children,
You're
not the women.
We really do all what we can not to hurt the citizens. For example, these days, actually today,
You kill more than 70,000 civilians.
no,
They are more than they are more than the terrorists.
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing here now. A lot of people feel that because China is the a second node of the multipolar world, they should have been weighing in a lot in what's going on in Gaza. The Chinese have stayed away from it. They are not, but pushback against Israel is now happening all over the world. Netanyahu did find out the other time that so many countries, even European countries, are now beginning to have serious pushback. Spain, Ireland, those are the countries that are most virulent in their criticisms. Of course, we know South Africa took Israel to the International Criminal Court, and because of Donald Trump's relationship with Maria Mandelson and a strong relationship with Netanyahu, he has done his best to bring pain to the South Africans. But the South Africans managed to secure the International Criminal Court just to make designate President Prime Minister Netanyahu as a war criminal. But they are getting the push back from all over the world. If it's not the Chinese government that is pushing back here now, it's a Chinese academic. And more countries are pushing back against what's happening in Gaza. They're not happy about it. It's genocide, and it's very ironic that a country that suffered genocide is one, as they say, and most people argue, are meeting out genocide. Already recently, the United Nations came out with a report that what is happening in Israel is genocide. This year should be my last spot. This is where I would want to stop for today. I hope you enjoyed my X review, the deep dive into the news out there and how this is what they represent in the geopolitical space all across the world. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. My name is Ebimwa Mungo. This is my channel, Ebimwa Mungo's Perspective on Global Affairs. And if you have any comments regarding the opinions I just expressed, please put them in the comment section. Do well to like and share. Goodbye until I see you in the next video.